Hello, my name is Fox and you're watching Den of Fools. Let's jump right in. As you will be aware, Games Workshop released their MetaWatch article on Warhammer Community on the 9th of March. They gave win rates from the 30th of January to the 6th of March. On our latest weekly stat show at time of recording, one of our viewers, Chris Brown, made a detailed comment about how our win rates compared to GW's official ones. We will link the stat show with the comment at the end of the video, but to summarise, they stated we track really closely. However, there are some discrepancies which in their words smells a bit fishy on their end, so we decided to investigate. Prepare your tinfoil as today we are looking at a conspiracy. Did GW fake their win rates to make the game look more balanced? As we take all tournament results from Best Coast pairings, we should track GW's win rates very closely, as they have stated in the past they use BCP as a data source. We took all the results in the date range GW provided in their MetaWatch article and compared our stats to theirs. Overall, we get 6 factions with the exact same win rate, with a further 11 within 1%, which demonstrates that we track the official win rates very closely in my opinion. We do not know how GW round their win rates, as we usually provide ours to 2 decimal places. We have rounded to the nearest figure, but if GW always round up or down, it could account for the 1% differences. There are some factions which are unknown in our stats, which can influence the win rates. However, we only recorded 34 players as unknown in this period, which will not make a difference overall. There are 5 factions where we track the win rate within 2%. The Aeldari and Asuryani are quite difficult to track, as we are not sure what sub-factions are included as each. For example, the Ynnari are assumingly included within Aeldari. In our data, they got an individual win rate of 51%, which greatly increases the overall win rate of Aeldari. The inclusion of the Ynnari in our stats pushes Aeldari over 45%, putting them in that Goldilocks zone between 45% and 55%. It is not too big a stretch to think GW purposefully kept the Ynnari within Aeldari to push them to a 45% win rate. This is especially strange, as in the previous MetaWatch, they gave a figure for Ynnari while not giving Aeldari figures. Some consistency would make them look a whole lot less suspicious. They have obviously deliberately reported them differently from just a few weeks ago, but why? Looking at the other factions where there is a 2% difference, the Dark Angels at the top could be explained by the fact players do not always declare their chapter, and we unfortunately do not have time to verify the chapter ourselves. This could equate for the 2% difference. We do not really have a similar issue with the other factions, as they are a full faction in their own right. However, a 2% variance is still quite good considering GW themselves state their win rates have a margin of error of up to 5%, hence why they aim to have all factions within 5% of a 50% win rate. There are 4 factions with either a 3 or 4% difference in win rates. These factions are the ones which rouse our viewers' suspicion, as conveniently, 3 of the factions in our stats are all under 45%, however, for GW they are all within the Goldilocks zone. This is the central idea of the conspiracy. GW have manipulated these 4 factions so that they can say they don't need buffing and save themselves a job in the next balanced data slate. In the spirit of fairness, and so we are not making completely unfounded claims, we made many attempts to get our stats close to GW's with limited success. We have, however, thought of all the reasons we can as to why the win rates are so different for these factions. For Thousand Sons, we have them 3% lower than GW on 39%. Admittedly, there is no incentive to incorrectly report this win rate, as the GW win rate also falls under 45%, and GW have stated they will buff Thousand Sons in the next data slate, so no job saved there. Although admittedly, I am quite happy they're going to buff them, they really do need it. One faction we also think needs a buff is Chaos Space Marines. However, as they have a 46% win rate according to GW, they made no mention of them getting any buffs in the next data slate. We have them 4% lower at 42%, and we try to explain a legitimate reason as to why GW have them higher. We do label some Chaos armies as Chaos Mixed, which could be Chaos Space Marines or Demons. However, there were only 23 players in this period, and they get a win rate of 44%, which would improve the win rates of Chaos Space Marines, but not by enough to reach GW's win rate. We noticed that GW did not report the stats for the World Eaters in this MetaWatch, likely because their new range released roughly in the middle of the period. Interestingly, when we added the World Eaters games to Chaos Space Marines, the overall win rate was at 45%, only 1% lower than GW. Is this how GW got the Chaos Space Marine win rate over 45%? With Tyranids, however, we do not really know how they got their win rate higher. Maybe armies which are a mix of Genestealer cults and Tyranids are being counted as Tyranids, and we've seen that the Genestealer cults are performing well. You do lose special rules if you do this, so I don't think this would be the reason. We can't explain the difference. AdMech miss out on buffs as they are in the Goldilocks zone. We are not sure why GW have them 3% higher than us. One thing to note is that AdMech do way better in smaller events than larger ones. If GW has an additional source of data from smaller events, this could explain why GW have them performing so much better. Seeing as it is quite odd the faction at the bottom are the ones with the biggest differences, I can see why a viewer was suspicious of the GW win rates. The most logical explanation is that GW must have additional data from somewhere other than all tournaments reported on Best Coast pairings, which is the data we use. When watching the MetaWatch video, I noticed that when Stu Black, the studio lead for Warhammer 40k, was talking about the games they record, he concluded by stating, "but organised play." I knew I had heard this term before, and I went back to find the article in Warhammer Community about the organised play packs they sent to Warhammer stores and local gaming stores to run events. There is a list of participating stores across the world which is rather extensive. The list of stores is 35 pages long, with roughly 40 friendly local gaming stores on each page. That's a rough estimate of 1,400 stores who could be running regular organised play events. It also lists the official Warhammer stores which are participating. There is only 17 stores listed directly, however, it does state all stores in the US. After a Google search, a rough estimate is an additional 165 stores which could be running organised events. Are the results of tournaments using organised play packs being reported to GW, which will give them a much larger pool of data? This is supported in the 6th of October 2022 MetaWatch video when Stu is discussing the data. He states they have direct links to tournaments, collect through apps, and collect online data. Crucially, they state data we gather ourselves, so evidently they have their own source of data we cannot access. To me, these additional games could explain the differences in win rates, and that organised play events could be the source of them. If only half the participating stores ran an event in this period of MetaWatch, that would be enough additional gains for the differences in ours and GW's win rates, for the handful of factions where there's a 3 or 4% difference. If anyone watching this video runs these organised play events, please let us know if you send the results to GW. It would confirm our theory on the source of the additional data. We have put forward our opinions, and looked at all the things we can think of which could explain the differences in the win rates. So what do you think? Conspiracy theory or conspiracy fact? I'll put my tinfoil hat back on when I'm reading the comments. If you enjoyed our content, please subscribe, check out one of the videos on screen and consider using our affiliate links in the description. Thank you for watching.